A wondrous day ahead. So we are the group 2, and as for today, we are going to dive through to the chronicle of chapter 7 entitled Recruiting, Selecting, Training and Developing Employees. Alright, so without further ado, let me present to you directly what are the learning objectives of this chronicle. So starting off, we have to describe the recruiting process, including internal and external recruiting and the importance of realistic job previews. And also, we have to discuss the steps and the selection process and the basic selection criteria used by most organizations. Following, we have to identify and discuss popular selection techniques that organizations use to hire new employees. We also have to describe the selection decision, including potential errors and reliability and validity. And last but not least, is we have to discuss how organizations train and develop new to better enable them to perform effectively. So at this juncture, before we proceed to the actual discussion, let me present to you a little bit of encapsulation about the overview no, of these chronicles. So what is these chronicles speaks ba talaga? Ano yung volume? Ano yung ini-implement talaga? Or yung main or focal matter na meron ang discussion na ito? So as for today, in this chapter, we examine the process used by organizations to attract, hire, and develop new employees. We begin by examining the goals of recruiting and then discuss some recruiting methods. We next turn to the selection process by which organizations decide which of those persons recruited should be offered employment with the organization. And finally, the chapter ends with a discussion of methods and models of training those new employees so that they can perform their jobs most effectively. Ayan. So, with regard din po dito sa ating chapter na ito or sa chapter 7, dito ma-enlighten natin kung ano pa talaga yung pinagkakaiba no ng ating recruiting method or recruiting process in general, kung paano mag-select, kung paano mag-develop, kung paano mag-train ng ating mga employees, and of course, paano yung proper selection. Yeah, it might sound like they are synonymous to each other, especially the recruiting and selection and like, examining parts, but actually guys, these are all different. Lahat po ng mga ito or lahat po ng mga terminologies na ito ay magkakaiba at may pinagkakaiba sa isa't isa. Hindi natin silang pwedeng like, though they are major, they are very like mostly correlated and interrelated to each other, but like we cannot conclude na lahat sila ay pare-pareha. Of course, they are vastly speaking volume of difference to each other. And then, yan po ang goal ng report or ng ng topic or ng chronicle ng chapter 7 is for you to have the proper understanding and insight kung ano ba talaga ang proper process ng, ng tamang pag-hire and pag-develop ng mga employees sa ating workforce. Ayan. So let's now discuss the first objective. Describe the recruiting process, including internal and external recruiting and the importance of realistic job reviews. So as we can see, the processes of recruitment and selection are the means whereby organizations acquire new human resources. Recruiting is the process of developing a pool of qualified applicants who are interested in working for the organization and from which the organization might reasonably select the best individual or individuals to hire for employment. Dito po sa process ng recruiting, it's more like it's very like, malayo po yung pinagkaiba niya sa selecting. Sa recruiting po, dito po sa part na ito, we are just, informing yung mga aspiring employees natin. Dito nagde-develop pa lang tayo ng mga qualified applicants. We are actually not selecting. We are actually gathering yung mga employees, yung mga aspiring employees as well as those enthusiasts na balak magtrabaho sa isang organization or sa isang firm who are very much interested to offer their crafts, to provide their purpose, to have their insights to work under that organization's organization's vision and to provide also their viewpoint and also their artistry sa kung ano man yung pwede nilang maibigay. The most basic and fundamental goal of an organization's recruiting effort is essentially to fulfill the definition of recruiting, to develop a pool of qualified applicants. So itong recruiting process na ito, it might be from the use or utilization of internet, from the brochures, from the, yung dissemination ng information ng recruiting process is actually not limited. It's actually unlimited. Kasi marami siyang pwedeng way. Paano natin siya i-disseminate? Paano natin siya ipalaganap, no? We are actually recruiting as an organization who's managing or who's, or organizing or, owning a huge firm, not just domestically but also globally. So we have to inform them. But the best way as of this today's generation is the utilization of technology. So individuals work for several reasons, but the most common are the following: financial income, job security, promotion opportunities, benefits, and challenging work assignments.
Now, let's tackle about the two types of recruiting. So, the first one is internal recruiting and the second one is external recruiting. Internal recruiting is the process of looking inside the organization for existing qualified employees who might be promoted to higher level position. Sa nabanggit na words, existing qualified employees, meaning part na sila ng company. And ginagamit ang internal recruiting because na-mention nga na internal recruiting has several advantages over external recruiting. So, ano ba yung iba't ibang methods ng internal recruiting? So, the first one is job posting. It is a mechanism for internal recruiting in which vacancies in the organization are publicized through various media such as company newsletters, bulletin boards, internal memos, and the firm's intranet. Yung mga newspapers, bulletin boards within the company lang siya, meaning yung mga employees or yung mga workers na part ng company, sila lang rin yung nakakakita nun, and para sa kanila lang din yung job posting na yon. So, the next one is supervisory recommendations. Ang supervisory recommendations, I think ito yung pinaka-alam natin or like one of the common type of recruiting na nababasa natin, naririnig natin, na napapanood natin sa mga dramas. So, itong mga supervisory o yung may mga higher level positions, bumibigay sila ng solicits nomination or recommendation kung sino yung mga employees or existing employees na fit sa vacant na position. The next one is external recruiting. So, external recruiting is the process of looking to sources outside the organization for prospective employees. So, ito naman, ang external recruiting, meaning humahanap ka ng mga candidates na hindi pa part ng organization. Kaya nag-e-exist ang external recruiting kasi merong mga internal employees na hindi sila capable na i-fill yung mga new positions kasi nga merong mga internal employees na hindi pa sila ganun kahasa or hindi pa ganun kataas yung knowledge and skills nila para maging candidate sila para sa vacant na position na iyon. Many organizations prefer to rely on both internal and external recruiting strategies. Depende nilang kung ano yung problema or hinahanap nilang type of new employee. So there are different methods for external recruiting. The first one is word of mouth recruiting. It is the organization simply informs current employees that positions are available and encourage them to refer friends, family members, or neighbors or for those jobs. Ang word of mouth recruiting, yung mga empleyado ng kumpanya, direkta silang dumalapit sa mga tao, whether it could be their friend, their family, or neighbors, or biglaan nilang nakakilala, or baka meron silang nakita bigla na naghahanap sila ng trabaho. So, direkta nilang sinasabi na merong opportunity na ino-offer ang kanilang company or vacant positions na pwede nilang kunin or applyan. The next one is advertisement. Advertisement, always natin ito silang nakikita sa mga websites or di kaya mga social media na pinopost ng mga organization para maka-attract sila ng mga new people na mag-apply sa kanilang opportunity that they offer. Very popular itong method for external recruiting. Employment agencies. Reliance on employment agencies is another common method for external recruiting, but there are different types of employment agencies that serve different purposes. Employment agencies, basically, mas convenient ito sa part ng company kasi lalapit lang sila sa mga agencies na to para direkta silang i-match sila ng mga employers sa mga job seekers. So, let's discuss the two types of employment agencies. The first one is public employment agency. So, it became a formal part of recruiting process passage of the Social Security Act of 1935. So, itong by the word public, it means involved na dito ang government. So, ang purpose kung bakit may public employment agency is para mabawasan yung unemployment na meron sa isang bansa. So, kapag dito lumalapit ang mga company na naghahanap ng mga job seekers, wala silang babayaran na fees or mga cash or whatsoever kasi nga government involved na dito ang government and it's a public employment agency. Unlike private employment agency which are more likely to serve the white-collar labor markets. Itong private employment agency dito, nag-charge talaga sila ng fee for their services. The next one is headhunter. So, ang headhunter naman, sila yung mga tao na naghahanap ng mga qualified or mga professional workers na for higher level position. So, for example, humahanap sila ng mga senior engineer or mga CEO or di kaya pang highly technical positions na kailangan is super duper skilled na and hindi na nila kailangan magdalawang isip kapag hinar nila yung taong yun. So, yun yung pinaka main point ng isang headhunter is to find qualified individuals for higher level positions. The next one is college placement offices. It is another method of external recruiting is to use the placement offices that most colleges and universities sponsor. So, merong mga company na nag-undergo sila ng mga interviews sa mga universities or mga colleges. Every year, meron silang pwedeng i-consider na mga undergraduates na maging fit sa kanilang company. So, halimbawa nun is yung pinaka-common is sa Microsoft. Pumupunta sila sa mga colleges probably every year para makakuha sila ng mga capable students na mag-fit sa kanilang company in the future. The next is digital recruiting. On the other hand, is the internet has affected many human resource management activities, but there are few areas where it has greater impact than on recruiting function. So, ang digital recruiting, merong mga websites ang mga companies na nakalagay doon kung ano yung mga job opportunities na ino-offer nila. So, yung mga tao is pupunta lang sila doon, they will visit the websites and if they want to pursue or apply, nire-require silang mag-submit ng online applications. It is very convenient and mas mabilis siya compared sa isa-isang interviews na usually ginagawa ng mga organization. The next one is internships. Ang internships, para siyang temporary job lang din na ino-offer kahit kanino kung capable ka, whether it could be gusto lang ng extra income or a university student na gustong magkaroon ng experience sa marketing firm. So, mag-a-apply sila as internships para mahasa yung skills nila and magkaroon sila ng experience. So, may choice ang organization na tanggalin nila yung intern after ng contract kung sa tingin nila na yung tao na yun or yung temporary worker na yun is hindi siya magiging capable to contribute to the organization. But kapag maayos yung work ng intern, possible na pwede pa rin siyang maging permanent employee, and kapag undergraduate pa lang ito siya, pwede siyang offeran ng application kapag nakagraduate na siya.
Ayan. Ngayon, balik tayo sa akin. So, we are now discussing the realistic job previews. So, ano nga ba ang realistic job previews, no? Ano bang meron dito sa realistic job preview? So, RJP, or the realistic job preview, is an effective technique for ensuring that job seekers understand the actual nature of the jobs available to them. With this regard po, sa realistic job preview, simple lang naman po yung ini-enlighten dito. With this, when we are trying to hire, no? When we are trying to look for an employee, to gather an employee, we should be realistic and transparent kung ano ba talaga yung preview ng isang job na i-represent natin sa kanila. Kasi why not? I mean, why not be authentic? Or why not be transparent to them if they are actually the ones who's actually working under this name or under this job vacancy or job application? Take for example, I am one of the employees. I might look for a job. I might search for a job, for a vacancy or something. I would love to work here, and then I have these expectations in the back of my mind, and then like try to search for something engaging, for something beneficial. Why not just present the actual, no? Kung ano yung talagang benefits na makukuha nila, kung ano yung talagang salary na makukuha nila regarding sa kung ano yung credentials na mapro-provide nila. And also, bakit hindi natin ipakita sa kanila yung talagang hirap na possible na talagang mararanasan nila in accordance dun sa work na papasukan nila. Kasi maraming nangyayari, no, sa mga kumpanya, sa mga organization, they provide realistic job preview. They provide job preview in an unrealistic matter, or in an unrealistic manner. Kasi most of them, they would always like persuade them in a way na it's very persuasive but out of context in the reality. Kasi nga parang they would present something imaginative, para lang maka-fish sila ng more employees, to the point na hindi naman talaga ganun yung trabaho or yung effort or yung hard work na makukuha ng mga employees. Kasi by that, they just understand the butterflies part, but how about yung darkness? So why not just give them the brochure, the idea, the transparency, the information, the data, kung ano yung kailangan nila, and also why not let them observe yung sa actual na trabaho. Take for example, you are in a factory, so yung mga aspiring employees natin na gusto magtrabaho sa loob ng factory, why not just let them or permit them to enter and to observe and to actually have the experience. Siguro yung one of the best process, no, is yung internship. That's actually a job preview. Kasi nararanasan nila kung ano yung actual life or actual workplace. Kung ano yung hirap, not just the positive viewpoint, but also yung kahirapan, which is somehow yung hard work, and also the negative. Not just, we have to be transparent, we have to be negotiate, we have to negotiate to them kung ano yung positive and negative na pwede nilang ma-receive with that regard. Now, moving on, selection is concerned with identifying the best candidate or candidates for a job among the pool of qualified applicants developed during the recruiting process. Dito na, after the recruiting process, is yung selection process na kung saan, syempre, lahat naman ng ni-recruit natin, lahat naman yan qualified, no? Lahat naman yan magagaling. Kasi nga, why would they present themselves kung hindi sila qualified sa trabaho? Of course, they have these plenty of credentials, but in the selection process is where we actually select the best of the best candidates among the pool of qualified applicants. Ayan. Now, evaluating the recruitment process. So the final issue to discuss is how an organization might go about evaluating its recruiting efforts. This evaluation requires metrics that a firm might use in that evaluation. Several industry leaders suggest that these metrics should include time to fill a position, vacancy rates, turnover rates, selection ratios, quality of hire, and retention rates. In line with that, another point is that overall metric is the recruitment cost ratio. which includes all the costs associated with a new hire, from advertising through recruiter salaries and to compensation for the new hire, including yung ating mga bonuses. Ayan. So that's how you evaluate the recruitment process. It's very a long formulation and a very huge expedition to take, but it's a very careful path as well. So you should not just navigate it in a simple way. You should have to to have a parallel in between, kasi masyadong malawak yung scope na matatamaan, especially that these matters are not shallow enough. It's a big matter, it's a huge matter, it's a drastic, it could provide a drastic change, lalo pa profit gaining yung nakasalalay dito. Ayan. So let's proceed to the next reporter.
So moving on to our next slide, my name is Princess Nama Kaniban, and we will be discussing the steps in the selection process and the basic selection criteria used by most organizations. So this one will just be a summary. No? So first, identifying the selection, which is identifying the best candidate or candidates for a job from among a pool of qualified applicants developed during the recruiting process. So one of my group mates have already discussed what is the recruiting process, and then now we'll be discussing the selection process. So under that is a 3-step process. First step, gathering information like regarding the levels of requisite KSAs or knowledge, skills, and abilities possessed by each applicant. Second step, evaluating the qualifications of each applicant from among the recruiting pool. So we obviously know that this process goes through the application of explicit or implicit standards to the information gathered in step 1. And then lastly, for the third step, is making the actual decision about which candidates will be offered employment within the organization. This involves very careful assessment of the individual's qualification relative to the standards of the job and the extent to which those qualifications best provide and prepare an individual's requisite KSAs or knowledge, skills, and abilities for the position. Now, if a selection decision involves hiring a specific single individual, dapat yun din yung specific position na ma-hire, that would be selected. So if a new director of a marketing or a vice president of an HR, that's the posted, that will just be it. That's the only thing. So moving on to the next slide. So what exactly are the bases for evaluating applicants during the selection process? Now, here we have several possible criteria that can be used in selection decisions, and these often differ in terms of how objectively they can be assessed. So we have education and experience, skills and abilities, and personal characteristics. Now, objectively speaking, education and experience is our first, it is what comes to our mind first. So it is very relatively straightforward criteria to assess. Now, education refers to the formal classroom training an individual has received in public or private school and in a college, university, or a technical school. On the other hand, experience refers to the amount of time the individual may have spent working on either a general capacity or a particular field. Now, that is in the definition of education and experience in relation to HRM or human resource management. Now, here we have skills and abilities. This one relatively straightforward as well to assess someone's typing ability. And it's even possible to measure an ability such as spatial relations or the ability to manipulate three-dimensional object in one's mind objectively. How does this work? The applicant is put into a situational problem or an obstacle where one can think strategically, like how do they implement their skills and abilities in order to maximize and do the job efficiently and solve the problem more reflective to their skills and abilities. Now, lastly, we have personal characteristics believed to reflect the applicant's personality, and they're also difficult to assess objectively. Now, here, the next slide, we have the big 5 personality traits, namely neuroticism, extroversion, openness to experience, agreeableness, conscientiousness. So these 5s tend to be more behavioral than cognitive or emotional that can be assessed in a fairly objective manner. We have number 1, neuroticism, disposition to experience states such as anxiety and guilt rather than being adjusted emotionally. Next is extroversion, tendency to be more outgoing, sociable, and upbeat. And openness to experience, to be more imaginative and intellectually curious. So, how can we assess this through our applicants or through our employees? The agreeableness, to be altruistic and cooperative. So, this is very important, for teamwork. And then, the conscientiousness, to be purposeful and dependable and to pay attention to detail. So that's just how it is in general, the behavioral part of hiring in the Big 5 personality traits. Now, hiring for a fit, unique and interesting criterion for selection is referred to as fit. When the firm decides to hire someone on the basis of a fit, it hires that the person not because he or she is the most qualified for a specific job, but because he or she is a good fit for a larger organization. So what this means is sometimes the organization will not hire the person based on the standards or the quality itself na sabihin natin that person is the most qualified person for this specific job. Hindi nila pipiliin, but ang pipiliin nila is someone that is, even though they are not the most qualified for this job, they think that this person is a good fit for the larger organization. And that can be based through also the previous we have discussed, which is the Big 5 personality traits. So this person can be a graduate of Harvard University, pero wala silang agreeableness. So that it is. So moving on to the next reporter.
Let's proceed to 7-3A, which is the identify and discuss popular selections techniques that organizations use to hire new employees. So we have 7-3A, employment applications. So when we say that, it gathers key information about applicants like yung name, educational experience or background, work experience, and the career goals. So when it comes sa mga questions, dapat yung tinatanong lang sa questions, they focus on the applicant's ability to perform a job. Hindi sila pwedeng mag-ask sa mga personal informations like yung mga gender, age, and the marital status to prevent discrimination. Applications blank, it is widely used to gather objective information quickly and cheaply. It can help determine if an applicant meets the minimum qualifications, like kung ano yung years of experience. In advanced type of application blank, we have two, which is the weighted application blank and the biodata application blank. So when it comes, when we say weighted application blank, it is used to statistical analysis to identify which factors, like example, education, experience. Through that, it can predict a job success. So when we say naman the biodata application blank, it can ask for more detailed background informations, like when an applicant choose a field of a study, favorite courses, and through that it can help predict job performance based on the response. Now, let's move on to employment test, which are used to assess various characteristics such of intelligence, personality, or physical. In short, the purpose of this is that it can assess various characteristics, such as intelligence, personality, physical abilities. In aptitude tests, it can predict future job performance. When we say achievement test naman, it can measure the current skills or knowledge. So in the next slide, we have psychomotor and personality test. Dito, in short, ang psychomotor ability test, it can measure physical ability, like dito yung mga eye-hand coordinator, strength, manual, dexterity. Example nito is yung Connor Twizzard dexterity test. It can wish measures precisions and coordinations using tweezers. Dito naman, it can high face validity appear to measure what's important for the job, and fear rarely shows disparate impact. Ang personality test naman, dito, it can measure stable traits that predict job success. They has two types of personality assessment, including here, 1, self-report inventories, and 2, projective techniques. So when we say self-report inventories, it can applicants answer questions about themselves. Now, example dito yung MMPI. So when we say MMPI, it can focus on abnormal traits, no? Example dito is yung mga paranoia. So when we say CPI, it can measures normal traits. Example dito, introversions, extroversions, and dominance. So when we say Big 5 personality dimension naman, it can popular for predicting job success. Example dito is yung mga openness, consciousness. So number 2 is when we say projective techniques, no? It can show ambitious stimuli, no? Stimuli, like example dito is yung ink blots. And as applicants, what they see, no? Example din naman is ink blot test, no? It can use trained clinicians to assess underlying personality traits.
Work simulations o work samples ay parang mga sample tasks na ibinibigay sa mga applicants para makita kung gaano sila kagaling sa actual work. For example, gusto mo maging data entry specialist. Kaysa sumagot ka ng mga tanong ng interviewers, papaupuin ka nila sa harap ng computer at pagtatypin ka nila ng letter o document, tapos titignan nila kung gaano ka kabilis at ka-accurate mag-type. Parang demo lang ng skills mo. Parang ginagawa mo na agad yung mismong work mo para makita if fit ka. Next, ang in-basket exercises. Ito naman ay para sa mga managers. Halimbawa, mag-a-apply ka for managerial position. Dito, bibigyan ka nila ng mga hypothetical na letters, memos, or notes. So, ang trabaho mo ay alamin kung ano ang uunahin mong gawin, paano mo i-handle yung mga issues, and how you'll respond to them. It's a best way to test how you organize and solve problems para makita if you can handle managing people or projects. So, next ay ang personal interviews. Usually, face-to-face yan, pero dahil nga digital na ngayon, pwede na rin through Skype or Zoom. Conversation ito between a job applicant and yung representative ng company, like HR or hiring manager. At ginagawa ito para malaman kung ikaw ba ang perfect fit for the job. Madami ring klase ng interviews na ginagamit ng companies, tulad ng structured interview. Ito yung sobrang prepared na interview. May listahan ng standard questions na pare-pareho lang for every candidate. The goal is to be fair and consistent. Example, what are your strengths and weaknesses? Tapos nakaset din yung grading system para uniform yung pag-evaluate nila. Semi-structured interview. May preset questions pa rin, pero mas flexible na kasi may freedom na ang interviewer to ask follow-up questions. Depende sa sagot ng applicant. For example, kapag may binanggit kang project, tatanungin ka pa ng iba pang mga detalye. Unstructured interview. Walang pre-made na questions. Chill lang ang dating. The interviewer can ask anything about you. Depende sa trip niya, like kung anong gusto niyang malaman tungkol sa'yo. For example, tell me about yourself. Or kahit anong random topic lang, bahala na kung saan mapunta yung usapan based sa sagot mo. Situational interview. This is like a scenario-based interview. The interviewer will give you a specific situation. Tapos, itatanong kung paano mo haharapin yun. Example, paano kung may ka-team ka na tamad pero magaling sa work niya? How would you handle it? May mga common errors din na nagagawa during interviews, tulad ng first impression error. Minsan, ang interviewer ay mabilis mag-judge. Halimbawa, kung late ka lang ng konti or awkward ang simula, negative na agad ang dating sa kanila. Kahit mag-improve ka later on, dala-dala na nila yon hanggang sa dulo ng interview nila sa'yo. Contrast error. Nangyayari to kapag may sobrang galing or sobrang sablay na previous candidate. Dahil doon, maapektuhan yung pagtingin sa'yo based sa comparison. Kumbaga, mahihirapan kang mag-stand out, parang, ay, hindi siya kasing galing nung una. O baka mas maganda yung tingin sa'yo dahil hindi ka katulad nung nauna. Similarity error. Kapag pareho kayo ng alma mater, hometown, or interests ng interviewer, mas naging favorable yung tingin nila sa'yo kahit hindi talaga yun based sa qualifications mo. Parang may instant connection na kayo, which isn't always fair. Non-relevancy. Minsan ang judgment ay based sa mga irrelevant na bagay like style mo ng pananamit, posture, o kahit paano ka mag-smile. Minsan, nakaka-influence yun ng judgment kahit hindi naman talaga yun related sa job performance mo. Lastly, yung interviewer's knowledge of the job. Nangyayari to kapag yung interviewer ay hindi knowledgeable about sa job na pinag-a-applyan mo. Kaya, mali yung magiging assessment sa qualifications mo. Pwede silang mag-misjudge dahil hindi nila gets yung mismong trabaho. So next is other selection techniques na ginagamit ng mga companies para sa job hiring. Hindi lang ito yung usual na interview at tests in the workplace. It's not just about the interview or the resume anymore. There are other ways na ginagamit ng companies para piliin kung sino ang best fit for the job. Una, references and recommendations. Usually, companies ask for letters of recommendation or names of people na pwede nilang tanungin about the applicant's work experience. Pero medyo tricky ito kasi ang kadalasang pinipili ng applicant ay yung taong alam nilang magsusulat ng magandang feedback about them. So, companies need to be careful and not totally 100% na mag-rely sa mga sobrang perfect na recommendations. Also, nowadays, maraming legal issues about writing these letters, like kapag may nagsulat ng negative recommendation, kaya karamihan ng nagre-recommend ay nagiging safe na lang. Instead na magbigay ng opinion, sinasabi na lang nila yung facts tulad ng work dates at job title. Tapos, meron ding assessment centers. Ito naman ang madalas ginagamit for selecting managers. Hindi siya yung actual na lugar ha, pero usually, the applicants go through a series of activities like group discussions, role-playing, case studies, and other tests that will show their leadership and decision-making skills. Usually, 2 to 3 days siya at involved din ang mga current managers para i-assess yung mga participants. Ginagawa ito para makita kung kaya ba talaga nila yung mga kailangang gawin sa job. Evaluators observe them throughout these tasks and at the end, they give their feedback kung sino ang mukhang fit for a higher position. Kaya lang, medyo mahal ang ganitong process and it takes a lot of time and effort from both the applicants and the evaluators.
Reliability and validity in hiring. Reliability means that a selection process like a job interview or a test consistently measures what it's supposed to measure. There are 2 types of errors in hiring. Number 1, false positives. Ito yung mga candidate na predict na magaling pero nung na-hire sila, doon sila pumalpak. Number 2, false negatives. Ito yung mga candidates na inaakalang hindi magaling, so hindi sila hinar, pero kung kinuha sila, magiging successful sila sa kanilang job. And there are 3 types of reliability. Number 1, test-retest reliability. The consistency of scores over time. This type checks if the results of a test are consistent over time. Number 2, alternate forms reliability. Consistency between different forms of the same test. This checks if different versions of the same test give consistent results. Number 3, internal consistency. Reliability. How well items on the same test measure the same concept. Validity means that a process accurate measures what is intended to, meaning nakakatulong ito sa pagpili ng candidate who will actually succeed in the job. And there are 3 types of validity. Number 1, criterion-related validity. This type of validity ensures that the selection tool can predict actual job performance by establishing a correlation between test scores and real-world performance, like how well someone does at work. The test can be validated. Number 2, content validity. Evaluates whether a test fully represents the skills and knowledge required for the job. Number 3, construct validity. If a test claims to measure leadership, ability, or intelligence, it needs to be proven that it really does measure those traits and not something else. In short, reliability means the test is consistent, and validity means the test actually measures what it's supposed to and predict job success. Parehas mahalaga ang validity and reliability para makagawa ng tamang desisyon sa pagkuha ng empleyado.
Good day everyone, I am Mark Justin L. Peñaverde. So today, we're gonna talk about selection errors. So, in hiring, companies sometimes make mistakes when deciding who will succeed or fail in a job. So these mistakes are called selection errors, and there are 2 main types of it. So this one is false positives and false negatives. So in false positives, these are people who the company thinks will do well and hires them, but they end up failing. While the false negatives are, these are the people who the company thinks will fail and doesn't hire, but they actually would have done well if given the chance. So in quadrant 1 and 3, they are called hits. So hits are when correct decisions are made, hiring successful candidates or rejecting candidates who would have done failed. So in quadrant 1 shows false positives, hired but failed, while the quadrant 4 shows false negatives, rejected but would have succeed. So, in short, companies sometimes hire people who don't perform well. So these are called false positives, or miss out on hiring people who would have done great if false negatives. Legal effectiveness issues in recruiting and selection. So, when hiring, companies need to follow the laws and make sure their processes are effective. So, number 1, legal issues. Company must base hiring decisions on job-related factors and follow laws like the Civil Rights Act. Court cases such as Griggs v. Duke Power Corporation and Ricky v. De Stefano shows that companies must prove their selection methods are fair and valid. So, HR managers need to know these laws to avoid legal issues. Number 2, evaluating hiring companies. So, companies should regularly review their hiring process to ensure it's bringing in good candidates. at a reasonable cost. So, utility analysis helps measure how well the process works by looking at the accuracy of hiring decisions and costs involved. So, the companies must follow hiring laws and keep improving their recruitment methods.
Reliability and validity in hiring. So, reliability is about how consistently a test measure that it's supposed to, free from random errors. Think of it as an ensuring that if you take the same test multiple times, you'll get similar results. This includes aspects like test retest, reliability, how stable results are over time, and alternative forms reliability, how consistent different versions of a test are, and internal consistency, how well different items on the same test reflect the same idea. So, next is validity. Validity ensures that test really predicts job performance. It involves checking if the test correlates with actual job access. Criterion-related validity covers the necessary job skills, content validity, and measure relevant rates for the job contract validity. So, together, reliability and validity are essential for effective hiring. They help organization make shorter decisions, save money, and minimize the risk of legal issues related to discrimination. Balancing these two elements lead to better outcomes for both the company and the candidates.
So, good day everyone. My name is Ivan Rosie Pornea, and today I am discussing Chapter 7, how organizations train and develop new employees to better enable them to perform effectively. First is HR manager plays a crucial role in maximizing new employees' potential. Effective training and development are key investment that improves overall performance. So, HR managers play a crucial role daw in organizations. So, training is a structured approach to help employees acquire job-related knowledge, skills, and behavior. So, sa training is dito na natin na-i-improve as an HR manager yung ating mga new employees. Dito na natin hinahasa yung skill and knowledge nila about the organization and the work na pinapasukan nila. Next is development. On the other side, focuses on preparing managers for current future roles, enhancing broader competencies. Development enhances managers' skills such as decision making and problem solving. So dito, hindi lang new employees yung tinatrain, especially HR managers. Dito tinatrain yung mga HR managers to have a better decision making and also their skills and problem solving. So as if I was HR manager, if mababa ang loob ko na i-motivate yung mga new employees, paano ko sila mamomotivate if ako sa sarili ko is hindi malakas yung loob ko and hindi ko kayang magdesisyon para sa isang organization if mababa yung loob ko. Next is conducting a need analysis. HR must evaluate both organizational needs and workforce capability. This analysis identifies essential knowledge, skills, abilities required for effective job performance. So, hindi lang yung needs ng employees ang dapat natin tutukan. Dapat din natin tutukan yung organizational needs para balance lang sila. If grabe yung workforce nyo sobrang high, pero yung organizational needs nyo is sobrang baba, hindi yun magiging successful. Dapat balance lang sila. Next is setting clear goals for training. Establish measurable objectives to gauge training success. Example is reducing average claim processing time from 6 to 4 days. Clear goals facilitate assessment for training effectiveness. So, setting clear goals for trainings. So, sa training natin, hindi lang natin tine-train sila as for their skills. Kailangan meron silang goal. Kumbaga pa, if magte-train ako, my goal is to be a better person, a better employee. Yun yung goal ko. My goal is makatulong sa organization na ito. So, in that goal, malalaman I have the motivation to work more to improve myself. Next is in-house training. Ensures tailored content aligned with specific organizational needs. Outsourced training provides access to external expertise may lack of relevance to the advantages of specialized external resources. So, dito is in-house training. So, they have the access on outsource training yun siya. Yung they have access for external expertise. So next is work-based programs, which is on-the-job training, immediate application for skills. On-the-job is sa organization or nasa trabaho na sila nagtitraining. Diretso na sa trabaho para actual work yung tinetrain nila. So, apprenticeship is combination of practical experience and classroom instruction. So, dito is they practical experience and then they get instructed by the HR managers. Next is vestibule training, stimulated work environment for skills practices. Next is instructional method. So we have the traditional lectures method. So dito is sobrang baba na daw ng gumagamit ng method na to because today's generation is we're more on computers, cell phones, gadgets, and online. Next is computer-assisted instructions. So, dito na pumapasok yung sabi ko na in our generation, we're more on computers, gadgets, cell phones, and online. So, lahat ng trainings, instruction is online na. Sa online na pinapadaan. So, next is embracing technological advances in training. So, we have two, which are the video teleconferencing, which is enables live training delivery across multiple locations without travel cost. So, dito is yung kumbaga pa Facebook Live, doon pinapanood nila yung mga training or video, mga ganyan. Next is the interactive videos. Dito na pumapasok yung Google Meet, video call, which you have interactions with the HR manager.
So that it is for our Chapter 7 report. Thank you so much for listening.